time, I'd really like to introduce you to our first speakers of the day, Dr. Jamie Doran and Dr. Jonathan Richter. As mentioned, Dr. Doran is Executive Director of Research, Innovation, and Entrepreneurship at Georgian. Jamie has been an active contributor to Ontario's innovation and entrepreneurship sector for 20 years. He's a serial entrepreneur and served as CEO of Innovation Guelph prior to joining Georgian. Dr. Jonathan Richter is co-founder, president, and CEO of iLRN and the director of Tech for Good programs at the Salish Kootenai College on the Flathead Indian Reservation of the Salish, Lipsi, and Saukha peoples in Montana. And I really hope I got that pronunciation right. Jonathan's focus is on phases of adoption, collaboration in virtual environments, and design patterns for learner engagement in XR across disciplines, stems from design, research, and teaching for specific populations of learners and educators. So without further ado, Jamie, Jonathan, the floor is yours.
All right. Hello, digital pioneers. So to everybody out there, I'd like to introduce my guest, Jonathan Richter, and he is the CEO and president of the Immersive Learning Research Network. And when I say Immersive Learning Research Network, I'm going to refer to that as iLRN from now on so that it's a little shorter, easier to say. And Jonathan and I will be talking with each other about several really cool things during this talk. And so to keep Jonathan on his toes, I have prepared a series of cards. They're right here. So you can see them there. I've got lovely red cards that are going to spark interesting conversation and hopefully keep us on track. If you can't tell, I really love cards. They're great. For some reason, my brain works around these things. So there'll be an opportunity towards the end to ask us questions, so be ready with yours when we open the floor. And some of you might have discovered that Jonathan and I made a fun video about the iLRN and Georgian Virtual Campus, and you can find that on the Bernick Online YouTube channel. And you can also go on YouTube and just search Henry Bernick Entrepreneurship Center and you're going to find that. And we're hoping that you will subscribe to our channel. Let's get started here. I've got my first question. I know we had a little bit of an introduction for you at the beginning. I really want to know this one. Who that Jonathan Richter guy? Tell us about yourself a little bit.
Born and raised here in Montana. I was able to come back to the great state about 10 years ago, following a bit of a career at the University of Oregon and Seattle, and do research on learning technologies. I've been really focused over the years on various different vulnerable populations, including students with learning disabilities, people who just don't have access to things like others do. So people in rural populations, people in urban populations, etc. I have a wife and 2 kids. Work here at Salish Kootenai College on the Flathead Indian Reservation, running their Tech for Good outreach programs to integrate technology into the community. And then I'm also the CEO and president of the Immersive Learning Research Network, or iLRN, which grew out of the American Education Research Association, AERA's special interest group on virtual and immersive learning. Been going since about 2007 with AERA, 2015, 14 with iLRN, doing conferences back and forth from Europe to North America. And then COVID hit, and of course we went all virtual, and that led us to where we are today.
Let's start diving into that a little bit, because I think that's the meat of the matter for our talk this morning. So I'm going to hold up a couple of cards, and we'll slowly unveil the amazing aspects of this incredible virtual campus and some of the stuff we're doing in there. So my first card then is, let's get this one done. So Verbella. Tell me about Verbella. What is that?
So Verbella is a virtual world technology that's designed for serious use. It was designed out of San Diego at the university there by some organizational psychology doctoral students, Alex Howland and his colleagues, for business. And they created this virtual space. You can go in. It really enhances engagement. Mm-hmm. You can use Google Docs. You can use, upload your PowerPoints, your PDFs. And it uses different room spaces to different effects. So you have an amphitheater that can host lots of different people. You have classrooms where you can host class and do one-on-one communications with each student. So there's conference halls, so you can host lots of engaging, back and forth and small group discussions. And of course, there's lots of good informal spaces. So there's a beach, there's a soccer field, and it's really great for just sort of bumping into somebody and having an impromptu, emergent discussion, something that you just don't see like on Zoom or other technologies. So we chose that for our conference last summer, and it has been an excellent serendipitous choice for us. Super happy to partner with Verbella.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. I have been in there several times. So first, I should say to people, I think a lot of the people watching this stream right now have probably seen Verbella, or maybe they've seen shots of it, or maybe they've been in it themselves. But if you're wondering, what the heck are they talking about? It looks a little bit like a video game, like where you have your character, so you can make your avatar, and then you can run around in this virtual world. And as you mentioned, there's different venues, so you can kind of go through different doorways and get into these different spaces. Yeah. But you can bump into people from all over the world who are in there, in whatever virtual campus you might be on.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And there are, in fact, quite a few Canadians in there, as I've found.
Yeah, that's true.
It's been great to collaborate with you and the other colleges and universities that have adopted and worked with us on the iLRN campus.
Great. So that is my next card, actually, and this one is less about iLRN as your organization, but more about your organization in the virtual campus. Let's talk about that. Like, what is this iLRN virtual campus being used for, and what are your goals?
Well, yeah, Jamie, like last year following the conference, of course, we used that for our Immersive Learning Research Conference, which is the idea to showcase what works in XR, which is the umbrella term for virtual reality and augmented reality and all the mixed reality in between. And we had about 3,200 people attend our conference, and we were very busy. And as soon as we came out of that, end of June, we said, how would we make the best use of this virtual campus? And of course, with the pandemic going on and the complexity and capacity of this incredible space, we said, you know what? I think opening this up to some like-minded institutions, colleges, universities, and other learning associations that share our desire to help students and innovate, that would probably be the best use, even though it's going to create a huge sort of administrative issue for us. We decided to go for it.
Right.
And so that's what we did. We worked we sought out innovative, sort of early adopters, colleges and universities who we thought would be a really good fit for that. And as you know, Georgian was one of our first choices. So.
Right, and we can credit Rob Terrio, who was kind of a pioneer into this space early on, and he connected you and I because we have at Georgian, we have this thing which we call the Digital Innovation Strategy. Yeah. And part of our strategy is really how can we make the best student experience possible is really our goal there. And then when you dig into that and say with the pandemic, we've had everybody being remote and learning remote, and we were using Zoom and stuff like that to connect with each other, but we're missing that sense of presence. So when Rob came up and said, hey, check out this virtual campus, let's meet in there, we're all scratching our head thinking, what is this? But when we got in there, we realized, well, this is interesting, isn't it? Because when we went even just to explore it, hanging out with colleagues that I'd either never met or hadn't seen in person in months. And we felt that direct connection. It felt like we were right there beside each other. So we thought there is something here that's worth exploring. It could be part of our digital innovation strategy.
That's right. Yeah, that sense of presence and sort of that shared sense of geography is non-trivial. It's really a critical thing, particularly for the pandemic situation where people are sheltering in place, but also when you can share a sense of geography and a sense of place, have a feeling of being there with people who are maybe on the other side of the world.
Right.
It's pretty great.
Yeah, it is. And we see it as an experiment, really. Like, it's not a replacement for the college experience. It's an add-on. It's a plus. And we've kind of waded in carefully because we realized that, we need to test a few things out in there before we go all in. But at the same time, we knew that in order to to get a critical mass, we needed to open it up to as many people as we can. And I think at the moment we have over 600 people registered to use it. That means 600 people can log in and just access all the different Georgian spaces in there.
Yep.
I think we are the most pioneering college in Ontario for sure with the number of users in there, but there are several others who are interested in and using it as well.
Yep.
Can you tell us a little bit about some of the users of the campus from around the world?
Boy, well, we've got George Brown College there, also in Canada. We've got some adoption from Saskatchewan, a little bit from British Columbia, but not yet official. We also have the United States Military Academy at West Point, the University of the Pacific out of Oregon. We have a nonprofit called Eco City Builders who works with different people from around the world to create sustainable technologies in urban environments. We have the Institute for Learning Innovation, the National Center for Science and Civic Engagement. They have a really awesome project on connecting Indigenous and Western science knowledge together for eco, food sustainability, all sorts of things. It's very cool.
Yeah, I got a card for this one. I didn't hold it up, but this is the global neighborhood.
Yeah, it is. And then, for iLRN, we have chapters in Colombia, Mexico, Ecuador, South Africa, Czech Republic, France, the UK, and it's just growing, literally a worldwide collaboration on the use of this Verbella platform, but also sort of the what works for jumping out into the metaverse, all the different virtual and augmented reality spaces that are good for learning.
Cool. And then that's a perfect segue to my next card here. This is something that's been popping up more and more. This one says 2D versus 3D VR.
Right.
And the virtual platform really is a 2D virtual platform for most people who access it, but it doesn't have to be because you can access it with a headset, right? Like one of these things.
That's right. You can get on with a headset. We chose it because of its relative accessibility compared to other 3D VR. Because again, at the time of the pandemic, a little less than a year ago, their 3D headsets were locked up in labs, and we really wanted to help teachers who were scrambling looking for solutions for their students. So Verbella is accessible on a Mac or a PC. You can just do a simple download, and that meant a lot more people could access this what works information that we're trying to share publicly.
Yeah, I agree with that. And that's one of the reasons why we wanted to go with a partnership with iLRN, because we saw it as a stepping stone. I'm one of those people who sees the future. People laugh at me for saying that, but I'm constantly thinking about where are we going? What's going to happen? And, and what's the best route for us for, everybody to have a healthier, happier life going forward. And I totally see, we're headed towards this future where augmented reality and virtual reality are going to be as commonplace as having a TV, and people are going to use them. It'll be like your glasses you're wearing right now will be a computer screen fairly soon.
That's right.
Right. And right now it's a bulky headset like this, and they're getting lighter each time. But right now, that headset is more powerful than virtual reality has ever been before, like just the experiences you can do there. So if we were to say we're going to transform the entire college experience or student experience or even employee experience with virtual reality, that would be pretty terrifying, right? Yeah. But what we need to do is say there are stepping stones. We're not going to do this overnight. And so something like a 2D virtual campus is a perfect stepping stone. And I have my team meet in there every 2 weeks. We have our team meetings and we all meet. There was some resistance at first, and because it was new. Others was the exact opposite. It was like running around in there everywhere and just going for boat rides and hunting for stuff. And so we've had the full spectrum of adoption, but now I think pretty much everybody is very comfortable with it, and we're learning how to use the space even more now that we're comfortable with it. So I think that's a little allegory of where we're headed overall. Like, we've got this digital future, but it's really about these little stepping stones, and something like the iLRN campus is a perfect one. Let's go on to my next card, okay? As I mentioned, our digital innovation strategy really is about the it's creating the best student experience possible. So let's say, in terms of the campus, what can we say about modern teaching and learning?
Boy, there's so much. We could have a whole session just on that, right?
Yeah, I know. You only get 30 seconds. I got the clock running here.
Right, we got to go. Well, I think it's all about engagement. It's about engaging learners in different ways. I mean, people's attention is being pulled in so many different directions now. Teaching now needs to step up into that sort of attention ecosystem and use a variety of different tools to not just hook people's attention, but maintain their attention, focus their attention, and get them to deliver, which means oftentimes not just the virtual world, but connecting it to real life, how things actually transfer to outcomes. So working these virtual ecosystems, integrating them, as you say, it doesn't replace the physical classroom in any sense of the word. It's a unifier and a way of creating tools that help engage and manage attention in ways that a lot of physical universities didn't have before.
Right. And back in February, we piloted some courses utilizing the space. So our faculty members, we had 4 pilots happening. So we had applied digital marketing, and we had hospitality, law, and risk management, and big data analytics is now using the space, and crisis intervention. And when I first heard about the pilots, because we kind of opened the door saying, who wants to try it? And so the early adopters are like, yeah, me, I'll get in there, I'll work it out. I was thinking it's all going to be computer science students in there, but it turns out, it's really not. It's a mix. It's the people who can envision how they might engage their students in a new way. And then instead of just reproducing the classroom in that space, thinking about how to use it in a completely new way.
That's right. And we're seeing such relatively rapid adoption of these kinds of technologies in a lot of applied fields, medical education and healthcare, culture, language and heritage, nature and environmental sciences. These are all really popping up. So it's learning the expert language and the expert skill sets of those applied areas, and then situating these technologies within them so that they're nutritious and healthy and connect up in a way that makes a lot of sense.
Right. And a very cool thing I heard about recently was, we have Artemis Lalonde is one of our faculty members, and she has been experimenting with the use of the space in very, very cool ways. And she does her hospitality, law, and risk management classes and engage with the student. But also, not only that, once classes are done, they've popped over to the dance hall to take all the students into the dance hall, or everyone goes to the beach and goes for a boat ride. And the feedback then from these students is, what an amazing class. It almost feels like when you're public school and you're working hard on your math sheet, and the teacher gives you that thing and says, all right, everybody, we can go outside and run around for 5 minutes. How powerful that little tiny experience can be. And so my next card really is this. It says social VR. And I'm wondering if you have thoughts on that. So it could be about the campus. It could be just in general, if you know more about that topic.
Well, yeah, thanks, Jamie. Definitely, virtual reality for a long time, I think over 20 years since it's really had an early adoption in the 90s, was really thought of as a pretty lonely experience. You put on the virtual reality and you were encased in these pixels. And you didn't really you interacted with digital non-player characters in the game or in the experience. And now I think that's really flipping on its head because of all these different social virtual reality platforms like AltSpace VR and
that's right.
And boy, you can go in and you can meet with people, you can collaborate with people. The tool sets are evolving quickly so that you can model and do things. And virtual reality has really flipped on its head, I think, in a lot of ways. It is a very collaborative social space.
Yeah, that's right. And it's solving some of those issues we have when we're all working remotely from home.
It is.
Not perfectly yet, but it's definitely on the right track.
And for people with various disabilities too, it's providing access in ways that were heretofore not available. So the presentation of material in ways that are more accessible, being able to demonstrate your knowledge in ways that were not available before. I think there's a lot of pioneering there for different ways of learning and showing what you know.
Yeah, that's right. And we're embarking on a equity, diversity, and inclusion initiative at the college. And really, it's about removing barriers and reducing any of those barriers that people may be facing. And so even with the iLRN virtual campus, we see this as an opportunity to try out some things there. It could be student support services, could be virtual counseling. It can be just social events. And that's my next card, which is these virtual events, which allow people to attend from basically anywhere.
That's right.
So tell me, what do you think works really well about virtual events in the iLRN virtual campus?
Well, I think you have a bit of a parallel with analog conferences, that you can do an event and you can organize it really well with the different capabilities of Verbella in particular. It really allows you to organize lots of different presentations, but everybody who's attending now can get the best seat in the house. It also really provides opportunities for, like we just said in the previous card, collaboration, socializing. I think the VR for events is really good at helping to connect people to other people in beautiful and interesting spaces that keeps you, active and engaged, and the ooh and ah of all the different cool things you do in the virtual space. The other thing about virtual learning and virtual events is that the scale. You can look at things from the cosmic. Let's go out to Saturn and look at Earth from there, or Mars on the rover.
Right.
Let's now shrink down to the nanoscale and look at how the carbon chain is. What is this thing about the carbon chain or phosphorus?
Yeah, let me get my hands on that and take a closer look here. Yeah,
get in there.
You can't do that any other way.
That's right. Or what is it like to be someone who was in the American Civil War? Or what is it like to be someone who's, let's take the perspective of an endangered species in South America. The immersive technologies really gives you that perspective in ways that no other teaching technology allows you to do.
Yeah, that is so amazing. That's one of my favorite things about it. Rob Terrio and we've been putting together a video which will be available very soon. But it's our adventure through VR, exploring immersive VR for higher education. And we explore some of the things you described there, where we could, take students into these immersive environments, and they will learn, while standing in the Parthenon, learning about ancient Greece, or you can learn about volcanization while you're knee deep in lava. Now, how could you possibly do that in a regular classroom? Let's switch gears a little bit, because I want to just talk about this a bit more, this remote collaboration, right? And if we even just specify or look at the iLRN virtual campus right now, when you think about remote collaboration in that iLRN campus, what comes to mind?
Well, amazing capacity for us to be able to work together to solve some of the world's biggest capacious problems that we're all facing together. Feeding the world, poverty, climate change, of course, pandemics. Suddenly we can really, we have technologies and increasingly the processes for being able to work together to leverage all this different expertise, all these different kinds of skill sets, and the diverse perspectives that are required for us to tackle these giant problems. Because all of us globally are each experiencing climate change in different ways, depending on your geography, the season, lots of different dynamics. But collectively, we could work together and to begin modeling these things, using data in a single space to visualize how those things are coming together and collaborate. So, I think it's essentially Verbella is a collaboration platform. They really designed it super well for people to work together. It just requires now the human organizational capacity to be able to leverage with that incredible technology. That's what iLRN is really hoping to be able to do, is collaborate, use this Verbella platform as a foundation upon which to spring for collaboration. We have an innovation garden, and the innovation garden is for people to come in and with various expertise start doing design-based work, much like Finland with their innovation factory in Espoo, or Stanford with their design IDEO out of San Francisco. But this is a virtual space where you could come in and do the brainstorming, the empathizing, the prototyping and then the testing and rapid iteration on those different innovations to quickly bring things up to scale and to market. We would love to collaborate with Georgian College as well as people from all over the world to leverage our collaborative capacities in just that way.
Yeah, that's cool. And, the global environment that we used to talk about even like 10 years ago, we said, it's a global environment and we're all interacting globally. And some of us did, and some of us were like, I don't even know how to start with that.
Yeah.
But now, with a tool like this, it basically does it for you. I was struck by one of my first times I was in the iLRN campus, and I'm wandering around getting to know it. There's only like me and maybe one other person in there. I walk up to the other person, and it's a fellow from Chile. And we had a conversation about teaching and learning and virtual reality and visiting Chile and what Canada was like, what the weather was like, just casually bumping into somebody in the Southern Hemisphere in a space like that. And that has happened to me several times in there when I'm running into various people. And it does really feel like that global neighborhood right there.
Yeah.
That you can just access with a click of a button. My second last card is this one, which is frontiers. And I feel like, Jonathan, you and I are really keen on these kinds of things. So we're pioneers. We're going to just be picking up something new and going, let's see where this goes. So when I say frontiers in this regard, what does that make you think of?
Lots of things. I mean, it's the edge. William Gibson, the famous science fiction writer, or the popular, he said a great quote that I've used a number of times in teaching people about this emerging future. He says, the future is already here. It's just not widely distributed yet. So like, yeah. If you look in certain places, you can find the future, this emerging edge of the new technologies and the new innovations coming out of these different pockets of the world where things are happening, where experts are geographically gathered and there's a hunger for people to do amazing things to solve new problems, etc. So I think of the frontiers kind of in that sense of what are some of these areas that are emerging, and it gives a sense of the unknown. The frontier, there's an edge of like, here's all the new stuff and toys and things that we're playing with. On the other side of it is we don't know how to do that.
Right.
That's why we call it research, right? We don't know what we're doing.
Yeah, exactly. But we're headed somewhere, and it's somewhere pretty exciting.
Yes. And I think that's palpable amongst the people in this field, this education technology field. I mean, we've grown, I think, 10 years in the last year under pandemic. A lot of those changes, some people will be pushing back and say, I'm not going to use Zoom ever again. Sorry, Zoom.
Yeah.
They want to touch the sand between their toes. They want face-to-face interactions. And I completely understand that. But a lot of the gains that we've had in education technology, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube, so to speak. And those innovations, those gains that we've made, it means we're in a brand new world. And for us to continue collaborating and working together to realize the potentials in this new, crazy, complex, interconnected world, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, well, Georgian is very pleased to be collaborating with you and iLRN and the iLRN team. It's been really great to work with you and work through all the bugs that we've worked through and try to make a great experience for everybody. And we're excited about what the next year is going to look like.
Thank you, James. We're ecstatic to collaborate with Georgian as well. You're absolutely one of the lead institutions that's helping us to pave the way in these things. And thank you very much for inviting me onto this panel today.
Yeah, no problem. So we have time for a Q&A, and I see some of the chat messages there that Lale says, I'm a great iLRN dancer. And it's ironic because so are you, Jonathan. You're a wonderful iLRN dancer. Man, you can cut some rug. So let's take some questions from the chat, and let's see if I can see some here. So one is saying, is iLRN focused entirely on the education world? Who are the biggest players in the corporate world?
That's an excellent question. Thanks for asking that. iLRN looks at learning broadly. So it's not only formal education in the kindergarten through secondary. It's also colleges and universities, also formal, but it's workplace learning. It's galleries, libraries, archives, and museums, informal learning. So it really takes a look at learning broadly. So it's the immersive learning and the technologies, the XR, that create immersive learning in a broad sense.
Right.
So
here's another question here. It says, are there any potential political challenges facing the use of iLRN across international borders?
absolutely, there really are. We started our work early on as a simple organization here in the United States and became a formal nonprofit as of last July. It took us a while to get that paperwork through and together. And it's complex. We're looking to create chapters around the world, and definitely equity and inclusion and the different situations around the world. Not everyone lives in a privileged country like Canada or the United States. And so we're really looking at how can we collaborate and provide immersive learning in places that don't have as much of a ecosystem in place. But that also looks at the policies and the infrastructure and the kinds of expertise and developing something of an MVP, a minimum viable product or minimum viable people happening in those locations for us to be able to grow things. And so that's been an ongoing challenge. It's something I think iLRN is going to be evolving with, but the regional chapters around the world is something that we have taken on as a strategic initiative. So
yeah, I think that's really strong. We've been enjoying participating in the iLRN Canadian chapter meeting, and I'm certain there'll be a global meeting at some point where we can all be together, and that's going to be really amazing. Mira has a question here. She says, are there any strategic partnerships in the works with other educational software companies? And I'm thinking about my kids, 12 and 8 years old, who play Minecraft with their cousins in California every weekend.
Right. The answer to that is yes, absolutely. iLRN is technology agnostic. So we collaborate with as many different technology platforms as possible, as long as they're immersive in some particular way. And games are definitely one of the things that gets you to psychologically immerse in an experience. But we have collaborated with a number of different corporations as sponsors, as donors to iLRN. They have an interest in seeing us help showcase what works because it helps them with the adoption of their products. As long as iLRN can stay in control, where it's not a corporate thing that's gaining, we're protecting the public good. Yes, we have a number of different collaborations with various platforms.
That's cool. We've seen actually some developments in the platform even since we started back in November. And, we had a vision of what that platform was going to look like and, made some assumptions up front that then changed, over time and changed quickly. So even now, the way we use the platform is different. So we have a question about, is there a roadmap for feature expansion or how this is going to work going down the road?
There is. So we're working very closely with Verbella, our partners, on this because, like I said, it's an incredible collaborative platform for us to be able to use. And they are, in kind, very serious about collaborating with us and experimenting and working together to create such a roadmap that will incorporate some of these education-specific or learning-specific capabilities of the platform.
Right.
And that's still kind of emerging, actually.
In the early days, wasn't it so that Verbella was really thinking this is going to be a corporate platform and was really aiming sales at the corporate market, and then suddenly they had all these educational institutions signing up.
Yep.
So things had to change.
iLRN, lucky enough, was in the right position to be able to collaborate with Verbella, and they have a number of other education partners, Douglas Stewart being one of them, and we've collaborated now. We're collaborating with Douglas Stewart Company together on working on how to use the Verbella platform. So yeah, it's happening fairly quickly. Especially education doesn't typically move super fast, but we are.
Yeah, but it really takes sometimes too, from the ground up, feedback. Like those who are actually in the space using it every day and when they run into something. And we've seen that already happen several times where we're trying to respond to that and come up with new solutions.
That's right. Yeah, designers, even instructional designers, have really clever ideas about how they think something should be implemented for teaching and learning. And then the teachers and students come into the space and they come back with things that are a real surprise. Oh, you want to use it for what? How are you going to use it? Oh, interesting. So that feedback is essential. Yeah.
Well, Mira has a related question, just saying, will there be open access development in Verbella? Like, is Verbella, opening the doors, so to speak?
I don't know about that. I mean, through iLRN, sort of doing a collaborative iteration. So at iLRN, we're trying to get the processes in place for people to give us suggestions, and then we compile all of those. Obviously, some of the development is going to be a lot more expensive than other kinds of changes. And so there's priorities, and they're really interested in looking at changes to the technology platform that will improve the experience for more people. So individual customized solutions. Verbella and iLRN are just growing so fast. At the moment, that kind of development is expensive.
Yeah, for sure. And one thing I think is neat about it actually is that the iLRN Verbella platform, it could actually just be a hub that we all log into, and then from there we pop off to go somewhere else or, do something else. So it's like a doorway to several other doorways. And
that's right.
I know that the VR platform Frames is being connected in, so we could essentially connect into the Frames platform and go off into some VR experience and, things like that. So I'm not sure if you've heard anything else and where that might be headed.
Well, I know Gabe and the rest of the team with Frame VR have been really developing quickly and hard. There's lots of new updates that are coming out. It's becoming more of a web-based conference or meeting platform. Definitely check that out. We did that last year for our Immersive Learning Showcase for our conference. And this year, in 1 year, they have come so far. It's going to be really, really cool to see what they've done or what people do with this new platform.
Great. Well, thanks, Jonathan. Like, I see Mira here, so we're getting the cane now. We're getting pulled off.
Thank you so much, Jamie and Jonathan. As Jamie mentioned, our team does meet in iLRN regularly, and we have had more than one dance party on occasion. We've also been able to have team meetings on the beach, even in the middle of our Central Ontario winter. So it gives us a little bit of escape.
Thanks once again, Jonathan.